buildings, as well known, is one of the key issues for the municipal administration because of the higher, the relevant costs. And having at disposal planning instruments for planning the technical intervention is of utmost importance. The municipality of Tito since 2014 has realized several interventions related to seismic adaptation and energy efficiency of public buildings, in particular addressed to schools, and the realization of nearly zero energy buildings. These interventions and target planning are in line with their Sustainable Energy Action Plan that could be strengthened and increased by the use of the tools as the Priority Plus ones for promoting energy efficiency in buildings. Also for this reason, the measure was very keen of signing the Memorandum of Understanding to boost energy efficiency in public buildings and use it as an instrument for energy planning. He wishes all of us a fruitful conference with the hope to meet all of us soon, maybe in a new project. And after the Mr. Scavone, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Napoli, Michele Napoli, that is on behalf of the measure of the municipality of Potenza, that was one of our associated partners in both the projects and a pilot study for both the projects.
Sì, per intanto grazie per l'invito che è stato accolto molto volentieri, e porto il saluto della città di Potenza, del sindaco Mario Guarente, che per motivi istituzionali non è qui presente ed è a me sostituito. Io vorrei poter dire poche cose, spero chiare, a conclusione di questa conferenza, anzi in occasione di questa conferenza. Innanzitutto mi preme precisare un dato importante. Il dato importante è questa collaborazione stretta tra istituzioni e in particolare tra il Comune di Potenza e il CNR. Ringrazio il responsabile con il quale abbiamo sottoscritto qualche giorno fa un protocollo d'intesa importante che fa il seguito con un progetto che è venuto a cadere, insomma è terminato nel 2019. Quindi diamo un seguito a un qualcosa di importante che naturalmente consentirà alla città di Potenza, consente alla città di Potenza di approcciare al tema dell'efficientamento energetico in maniera molto più puntuale. Quindi primo aspetto, questa collaborazione leale tra pubbliche amministrazioni, tra enti, che consentono, come diceva il sindaco di Tito, che saluto cordialmente, consente alla pubblica amministrazione di approcciare al tema in maniera diametralmente opposta rispetto al passato. Vedete, questo studio che mettete a disposizione delle pubbliche amministrazioni, a supporto delle pubbliche amministrazioni, è di fondamentale importanza, soprattutto in tempi in cui le ristrettezze economiche non consentono alle pubbliche amministrazioni di dare le giuste risposte ai cittadini. E allora mettere a disposizione, quindi supportare i decisori nel momento in cui bisogna programmare gli interventi, diventa di fondamentale importanza. Voi paradossalmente offrite, siete una sorta di effetto moltiplicatore delle risorse, perché una cosa è dissipare le stesse, utilizzarle a pioggia, altra cosa invece è utilizzarle in maniera parsimoniosa, sapendo esattamente dove intervenire, cosa fare secondo una scala di priorità. E questo, guardate, è di fondamentale importanza, soprattutto quando i sindaci si trovano insieme ai consigli comunali a decidere, a programmare a medio-lungo termine una serie di interventi. Allora sapere dove intervenire, cosa fare, i tempi necessari per efficientare un edificio pubblico diventa di fondamentale importanza. Se poi aggiungiamo che c'è un abbattimento del costo energetico che naturalmente grava sulle casse comunali, già di per sé risicate, vuol dire che abbiamo raggiunto uno scopo importante. Ma c'è un ulteriore aspetto che credo vada sottolineato e voglio qui farlo sapendo di non avere temi di smentita. È così che si educa e si sensibilizza l'opinione pubblica a, insomma, salvaguardare quella che è una risorsa, che è l'energia. E allora questo viatico che abbiamo iniziato qualche anno fa, che continuerà con la sottoscrizione di questo protocollo d'intesa, credo che sia il giusto percorso da effettuare insieme. E qualche giorno fa, in occasione proprio della sottoscrizione del protocollo d'intesa, mi sono permesso di sottolineare un aspetto più importante, ancora più importante a mio avviso, che è quello di portare, cosa che è già stata fatta in passato, questo genere di attività, questa collaborazione su un tema così importante, anche nelle scuole, soprattutto nelle scuole, educando naturalmente anche le future generazioni a considerare per davvero l'energia una vera risorsa strategica per la comunità, non solo nella quale si vive o si opera. E direi che questa iniziativa, questi importanti interventi che i comuni metteranno in campo sulla scorta di questi dati che voi fornirete, ci consentiranno anche di allargare il nostro campo di azione. Per esempio a Potenza abbiamo previsto interventi di efficientamento energetico sul Palazzo di Città, sul Palazzo del Consiglio Comunale, sul Teatro Cittadino, il Teatro Stabile, ma credo che si possa allargare ancora di più il campo di intervento. Penso ad esempio alle scale mobili, che è un impianto che drena tantissima energia, che ha un costo esorbitante per le casse comunali. Penso allo stesso ponte attrezzato, penso a tutta una serie di impianti sportivi che potrebbero essere oggetto di attenzione da parte dei vostri studi, delle vostre ricerche, per consentirci di avere degli elementi, dei dati oggettivi, in maniera tale, come dicevo nel mio incipit all'inizio del mio intervento, di poter, operare in maniera mirata. Questo significa completamente cambiare il nostro modo di agire rispetto al passato e di poter veramente portare a soddisfacimento quello che è un interesse che ci accomuna. Per cui grazie per l'invito. Io resterò fino alla fine perché il tema è importante e non mi allontanerò naturalmente dall'aula, perché è mio interesse anche conoscere quelli che sono i risultati prodotti dal vecchio progetto, dal progetto precedente. Perché una cosa viene ad essere rimproverata ai decisori. Voi mettete in campo una serie di iniziative, magari mettete in piedi dei progetti importanti, poi però nessuno conosce esattamente gli effetti che hanno prodotto. E allora sentire viva voce da chi ha lavorato e ha operato in questa direzione può essere importante anche per trasferire queste notizie, queste informazioni all'opinione pubblica, perché no al Consiglio Comunale. Stamattina sono stati in audizione in commissione al Comune, nella Commissione Affari Generali ed Istituzionali, proprio per spiegare il protocollo d'intesa. La domanda corretta che mi è stata posta, nel momento in cui ho detto che questo protocollo di intesa ci consentirà di proseguire un lavoro già iniziato in passato, è stata quella: sì, ma quali sono, e lo dice un consigliere comunale, quindi degli amministratori, quali sono stati gli effetti prodotti da questo genere di attività di ricerca? Ecco, se noi prendessimo, e mi assumo fino in fondo la responsabilità, l'abitudine di stare fino alla fine dei convegni e quindi di conoscere esattamente i risultati prodotti dalle ricerche, dei progetti messi in campo, potremo fornire un'informazione più puntuale anche all'opinione pubblica. E credo che sarà anche un momento di arricchimento, per cui vi ringrazio e ascolterò con grande piacere naturalmente le conclusioni cui siete pervenuti. Grazie.
Again, I will. Welcome to Dr. Latronico, that is our counselor for energy and environment in the Basilicata region. And if the counselor permit, I would like to summarize the intervention of Dr. Napoli that was welcoming the participant, saying something about the cooperation between CNR IMAA and the municipality of Potenza. I will try to be very, very short and focused. First of all, welcome from the measure of the municipality of Potenza that is not here due to institutional reason, but is very keen to know about the results. About the Memorandum of Understanding recently signed by the municipality of Potenza, we can say that it comes after, in the end of a very fruitful cooperation project among CNR IMAA and the municipality of Potenza, and give more power to the municipality for the challenge of energy efficiency related to efficiency of public buildings. It is very important because in terms of resources, and in particular scarce resources, it provides policymakers with instruments to decide about interventions, timing, return time, resources to be involved, and how, and gives some very punctual information about programming the intervention. So it's very, very useful for energy environmental planning. It's also a way to these projects and the cooperation between local authorities and research institutions is also very important to sensibilize public opinion about the energy themes, and in particular energy saving as giving a value to energy, and bringing these activities in schools could be very important to start from the beginning and bring this concept into the families. This also will allow the municipality to widen their field of application, because they can examine new buildings apart from the ones already included in the tool and analyzed for the pilot of Potenza, including escalator, swimming pools, and all the offices, and in particular to sensibilize the occupants on the themes of the project. It is also very important to disseminate the results, because this could be a weakness of the projects, because our audience is made up by stakeholders, local authorities, but in particular citizens, and of course this is a very nice opportunity to involve them in the activities. I will give the floor to Dr. Latronico for his speech that I will try to translate soon after. Thank you.
Molte grazie, ringrazio naturalmente il CNR per questa iniziativa e per questo dialogo importante su un tema decisivo per la nostra regione, ma ancor più per il nostro Paese, confermando la disponibilità della Regione Basilicata, in particolare della direzione che guido in tema di energia e di ambiente, per portare avanti questa azione di programmazione e di realizzazione di un nuovo assetto energetico della nostra regione e contribuire a un nuovo assetto energetico del nostro Paese. Negli ultimi anni la Regione Basilicata si è impegnata per favorire la transizione energetica e anche quella digitale, puntando al rafforzamento della produzione energetica da fonti rinnovabili, supportata dall'evoluzione della tecnologia, della rete di distribuzione, con investimenti dedicati per migliorare la resilienza e offrire sempre più servizi ai cittadini consumatori. E grande attenzione in questo senso è stata posta sui temi della smart innovation in ambito energetico, promuovendo interventi concreti in settori a gestione unitaria come la rete di distribuzione dell'energia e poi azioni preliminari di sistema per consentire la conoscenza puntuale dell'attuale situazione e migliorare la pianificazione degli interventi da programmare in settori complessi come la efficienza energetica in strutture e infrastrutture pubbliche. Nello specifico, la nuova programmazione regionale, di recente peraltro definita, prevede di sostenere interventi finalizzati alla realizzazione di reti intelligenti di distribuzione dell'energia, la smart grid, alla realizzazione di interventi di efficientamento energetico dei pubblici edifici di residenzialità pubblica, della pubblica illuminazione ed edifici e impianti produttivi delle piccole e medie imprese, alla costruzione di nuovi impianti di produzione di energia da fonti rinnovabili con l'implementazione delle attività anche nel campo dell'idrogeno verde e della geotermia. Con particolare riferimento alla produzione dell'idrogeno verde, evidenziamo che il Governo ha firmato qualche giorno fa 5 protocolli d'intesa con le regioni Piemonte, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Umbria e Basilicata e Puglia, finalizzati a promuovere a livello locale e regionale la produzione e l'uso di questo vettore. L'obiettivo è quello di sfruttare zone già collegate alla rete elettrica e ben inserite nel contesto produttivo nazionale per installare entro il 2026 elettrolizzatori alimentati con la sovragenerazione delle rinnovabili o impianti dedicati. I progetti saranno seguiti da vicino con un comitato di coordinamento e di monitoraggio. Grazie per il contributo che questi lavori potranno portare alla nostra azione di programmazione e di attuazione.
Again, a short summary of the very interesting intervention of the councillor. In recent years, Basilicata region has been strongly involved in the promotion of energy and digital transition, aimed at strengthening energy production from renewable sources, supported by technological evolution of the distribution network, and with investment dedicated to improving resilience and services to citizens. Great attention has been paid to the smart innovation in the energy sector, promoting concrete interventions in the energy distribution networks to map the actual plan and to plan the intervention to be carried out in complex sectors such as energy efficiency in public facilities and infrastructures. Specifically, the new program of investment includes interventions aimed at the creation of intelligent energy distribution grid, the implementation of energy efficiency interventions in public buildings, public residential buildings, public lighting and buildings, and production plants of SME. The realization of the new energy production plants from renewable sources, also in the field of green hydrogen and geothermal energy. With particular reference to the production of green hydrogen, it should be observed that the government had signed 5 memoranda of understanding with the regions of Piedmont, Friuli Venezia Giulia, Umbria, Basilicata and Puglia, aimed at promoting the production and use of this vector. The goal is to exploit areas already connected to the electricity grid and well integrated into the national production context, to install electrolyzers powered by the overgeneration of renewables or dedicated plants by 2026. The project will be carefully monitored and coordinated step by step. Thank you. And now the floor is for our project leader that was very, very clever and guided us very well.
Hello everyone. I will be very brief to leave space for all the intervention in the conference. And I would welcome all the people present here and all the people connected by remote. And this is the welcome to our final conference. With this event today, we close a process, a path that started in 2017 with the PrioritEE project that saw the local administrators at the center of the process, on transferring process and the capacity building increase to allow an improvement in the management of energy performance of public buildings. And again, welcome, and I will pass the word to my colleague Lina.
For the first session, that's all. I would like to invite to the floor Professor Norberto Fueyo, that will be the moderator of the next session, and was a partner in both the projects, and already cooperated very effectively with us, bringing his huge experience, and I would personally say him thank you.
Thank you, Lina, and thank you to our colleagues at CNR for organizing this very exciting and very well organized final conference for our project. So thank you very much indeed. So let's move on to the first speaker, if we agree. That will be Nicolas Garnier. He's a project officer with the Interreg Med program. He has been involved in supporting the implementation and capitalization of transnational cooperation projects in the Mediterranean area. He's the thematic contact point for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects, as well as project officer for projects on sustainable tourism, social innovation, and blue growth. He's involved in a program, in program development, in particular in the implementation of the capitalization strategies and thematic communities. So, Nicolas, if you are ready, please go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we
and
can.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Only it's only online that I could join this time, so it's a bit disappointing because I would have really wished to be with you and celebrate all the fantastic achievements that you have done in this project, in the PrioritEE project, and also in the PrioritEE Plus. And I think PrioritEE was really a great example of how well organizations, and in particular local authorities, can work together to embrace new solutions and have that available for new territories. And as you know, the PrioritEE and PrioritEE Plus project were part of a community of projects. And for us at the Interreg Med program, so the program that's funding these projects, it was very important to work on give the opportunity for projects to develop their solutions, but also to work together with the other projects involved in similar fields, so that there could be some synergies and some capitalization that can be done between projects in order to reach more and more territories. And all these projects were involved and focused on the energy efficiency and efficient buildings thematic. And it's very important now, as we go into the new programming period that is starting this year, to highlight the need for more sustainable managing and financing of energy efficiency and renovation of public buildings, and in fact demonstrate that local authorities can adopt these new ways and have these solutions available for them to operate better and more sustainably on their territories and create a better impact for their citizens. So from what I have seen, and I believe this will be presented later on, thanks to the transfer of this tool that was developed by the PrioritEE project and having this dedicated new project focusing on the transfer to new territories, these new territories have committed to adopt the new tool, which is fantastic. This is what we're striving for. And hopefully this will not stop there. And hopefully these key results and tools developed by the project will be further capitalized and built on. And this particular transferring action, as you will see, will be crucial in the new program as well. We will have more and more opportunity for projects and for partners to involve new territories through dedicated transfer projects. And I think you will be leading by example, because this is what you have done already in this project, and especially as we go into more dedicated focus on greener and more sustainable living areas. So that was the introduction, but I will show you some slides about the new programming period, just to give you an overview of where we are now in this new period that is starting from 2021 and will go until 2027. So in this new programming period, we have 14 countries and overall 69 regions that are joining forces in this new Interreg Euromed program. So this is an increase from what we had in the previous program, and also in terms of budget, we will have a stronger allocation of about 294 million euros allocated for the period for this cooperation area. As you know, the projects that we fund are through a transnational cooperation approach, so it's very important that a minimum of countries participate together in developing these solutions. And we will be opening opportunities also for institutions from the other shores of the Mediterranean, so on the southern and eastern parts of the Mediterranean Sea, to be involved as associated partners, so that they can be more directly, not directly receiving funds, but at least involved in operations overall. So we will be building on from the overall ambition of sustainable development by focusing our ambition to support the transition towards climate neutral and resilient society in the Mediterranean, protecting its many resources and skills that the Mediterranean area has, protecting them from global changes in terms of climate change and environment, and also ensuring the sustainable growth and keeping at heart the well-being of the. And in order to achieve that, this important mission and this important overall objective, we will structure the new program not only by topic, as we have done in the previous programming period, where we had the thematic communities of projects focusing on, in your case, efficient buildings. We also had communities on renewable energy, on urban transport, on innovation, growth, tourism, etc. And in this new program, we have structured it so that each of these sectors and each of these elements of our society are joined into groups of projects, teams of projects that can address an overall mission at large. And these 4 missions are here now. One focusing more on innovation, the second one on environmental and natural and cultural resources. The third one, which I will go more in detail, about greener and more sustainable living areas. And the fourth one being a transversal element focusing on sustainable tourism. So the idea to work with as missions is, as we have done with the thematic communities previously, each mission will operate as a portfolio of actions developed by each individual projects, but they all address the same thematic issue overall. And by working together in these missions, the potential of their results will be maximized again. So the missions will push the results of single projects beyond the initial ambition, the initial partnership, to address issues of a greater import. So this, you will have my slides, so you can have a more detailed information on each of the missions. But the first one being on innovation, SME development, and regional strategies in terms of innovation, capacity of public and private stakeholders. The second one, focusing on protection and the valorization of the natural environment, so natural resources and heritage, protection against natural disasters, resilience of the territories in general. And the third one, which I think you'll be quite interested about, is anything to do with how our living areas, be it the urban areas as well as the rural areas, the islands, and all the territories that are specific to the Mediterranean, share important challenges in terms of development, sustainable management, and this integrated vision of the territories in terms of the energy transition of each of the territories. So the projects in this mission will tackle this overall challenge through the development of greener living areas and work on minimizing the impact of the Mediterranean. So you see examples here, but in particular, we will be looking at solutions supporting the integrated planning and financing financing schemes of climate change adaptation, resilience, energy transition, and concepts for just transition and citizens' involvement as well. So solutions that will be promoting energy upgrade or energy efficiency of the building stock of municipalities, supporting the integration of climate resilience in general, considerations into renovation programs for building, including preserved buildings. And I mean, there will be plenty of opportunities as well in the field of urban mobility and transport, and overall making our living areas greener and more sustainable and more fit. And finally, the mission on sustainable tourism, which will be as a transversal approach, basically in any aspect that will have a tourism focus in their objective. And the way we will practically operate, the program will support two types of projects: thematic projects and governance projects. The governance projects, we are in the process of, I mean, the call for governance projects has just closed last week, and it will be the continuation of what we have done in the thematic communities previously, the horizontal project, in facilitating these exchanges between the different missions and ensuring a better governance at Mediterranean level on each of these missions. So each mission will have a thematic community and an institutional dialogue project, and their role will be to create this community and making sure that the results produced by each of the thematic projects will have a wider impact and will stand out at Mediterranean level. And to give you more detail on the thematic project, this is how it will be. These are the options that will be available for projects: studying project, testing project, transferring project, which will be as you have done with the Priority Plus, focusing specifically on developing an existing solution and making sure that it is available and uptaken by new territories. And a new type of project which will be called strategic territorial project, which will be focusing on one type of territory. specifically and encompassing the study, test, and transfer phase. So each thematic project will contribute one of the missions, as I said, and I think I will stop here because I'm taking already too much time. I'm sorry about that. But you find all the information about the new program, the course, in the program website. And this presentation was a little sneak peek for you because next week we will have the information session about our new call. It will be the first call for thematic projects, so the first big open call and opportunity for new projects, which we will have live from Limassol in Cyprus, where my colleagues will be presenting the new program and this specific new call. And also it will be available online for anybody in the Mediterranean who wants to join. And then the call is expected to be open the following week, so the last week of June, and will run until the end of October. So that's it from my side, and I'm looking forward to hearing all the presentation from colleagues. And once again, congratulations on these two Priority and Priority Plus projects, which have been a really great example of solutions that can practically and sustainably be transferred to new territories. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from you what you can do in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicola, for an excellent, as usual, presentation. It was now nice to see how the Euromed program is evolving in response to the recent challenges to our societies, challenges in environmental aspects, in economic aspects, in geopolitical aspects. So it was a very nice presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I would suggest to defer any question to the final discussion later in this final conference, if you agree. Unless any of you has any burning question that he or she needs to clear right now, then we'll defer any questions to the final discussion session, if you agree. So we'll move on to the next speaker. It is a pleasure to have here with us, or rather remotely, Carlo Alberto Nucci, the Italian representative for the EU mission for climate and smart cities. He is at University of Bologna here in Italy, where he's a full professor of electrical power systems at the Department of Electrical Engineering. He is an IEEE and SIGRE Fellow. Professor Nucci is also Doctor Honoris Causa at the University Politecnica of Bucharest and a member of the Academy of Science of Bologna Institute. His research interests include smart grids, energy communities, smart cities, and power systems electromagnetic transients, with particular reference to lightning. He serves also as national representative for the EU mission Climate Neutral and Smart Cities. So thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I wonder whether you can hear my voice, and now I will do my best to share the screen.
For now, we can hear you very well.
Yes. Now sharing the screen. I was receiving an invitation a few seconds ago, by the way, that I declined, as I didn't expect my speech to be now, but if the organizers are so kind to re-invite me to share the screen, I will be very glad to accept now their invitation. I can try to manage. Maybe I am already sharing my screen. Can you please let me know whether this is the case?
We can't see it yet, but I see from here that our colleagues are working on it. So
thank you so much.
still working, if you bear with us for a few seconds.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
We can see it now. Yes.
Very good. Very good. So let me just hide this light and we can start. I have 15 minutes, correct?
1-5, that's correct, yes.
1-5. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for this invitation. In particular, I would like to thank Dr. Gelsomina Papalardo, who serves as alternate and working with me in this European Union mission, Climate Neutral and Smart Cities, for which I'm serving as national representative. So from the title of this short contribution, you see another text below mission Climate Neutral and Smart Cities. You know that we have 5 missions in Europe. Cancer, I'm just quickly naming the main keywords of this: land, oceans, and sea, climate adaptation, and this one, climate neutral and smart cities. And indeed, something has been added, which is 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 by and for the citizens. The fact that it is for the citizens is quite clear and expectable. The fact that it is by the citizen means that this mission presumes an active role of citizens in accomplishing it. We know that these are the very well-known objectives concerning energy and climate. It was the very famous 2020, and then the Paris COP 21 in 2015 with this minus 40% of greenhouse gas emissions, plus 32% of renewable energy, and 32.5 more of energy efficiency with respect to 1990. This is also important to state. And we know that the 26th session of this COP, of the Conference of the Parties, was originally scheduled to take place in November 2020, but for COVID, for the pandemic, it was indeed taking place in November 20 and 21 in Glasgow. And we also know that these objectives have been, apologies for this text in Italian, have been rearranged, retuned. And so we indeed now, we know that we should reduce 55%, again, respect to 1990, the emissions, which is the fit for 55, and that we now have to have 40% as new objective as a matter of energy, and between 36 and 39% is the new goal in terms of energy efficiency. This is what everybody in Europe should do, but the point is that we do have 100 cities that have to do more than that. And in particular, we have the aim of this mission, which is the mission on climate neutral and smart cities, which is basically 2 main goals. The mission will mobilize local authorities, citizens, businesses, investors, and regional and national authorities to achieve the following 2 goals. The first one, create at least 100 climate neutral smart cities by 2030. There is one important concept. Now, the word the smart cities, the concept of smart city cannot be decoupled by the concept of climate neutrality. And note that these 100 cities have to accomplish this goal by 2030 and not by 2050. So this is the less than 8 years to accomplish these missions for these 100 smart cities selected. And we shall see in a few minutes the cities that have been selected. And the second goal is to ensure these cities to serve as experimentation and innovation hubs. This has the aim to enable all European cities to follow suit by 2050. I mean, this is the way that Europe thinks it's possible to accomplish, to achieve this goal of climate neutrality by 2050. Of course, cities already have access to a wide range of programs at regional, national, European, and global levels. They are very active in this respect. Now, the added value of the mission is that it adopts a cross-sectoral and demand-driven approach, creating synergies between existing initiatives. So it bases all its activities on the actual needs of the cities to achieve the objectives of the mission. I mean, cities have to do with this, have to cope with this problem independently to a certain extent of the mission. But the mission takes advantage of this. And what has been the timeline? As you can see here, it is, I would say, at least a couple of years that we talk about this mission, that we have meetings in Brussels, remote after COVID. And the main important part is of the timeline is represented in this picture. So in October 2021, so not very long ago, there was the publication was by the end of October, the publication of a comprehensive info kit for cities. Those cities who wanted to apply to try to be selected among the 100 had lots of information in this info kit. And then by the end of November 2021, there was the publication of the call for expression of interest. Cities had to fill up a questionnaire, being very clear on which are the objectives concerning climate neutrality in their domain, in their area, and how to be able to accomplish that. Of course, it was possible also to identify some sectors, some districts in the city, because for some cities, the accomplishment of climate neutrality in 8 years and a half was too much. And then the call was closed, and the selection of the participating cities started, and we had, by the end of April, indeed published the list of 100 cities. And now what is happening is that mission platform, this is one keyword in this mission. The mission platform is working with the first cities to develop climate city contracts. There are two keywords, mission platform and climate city contracts. Let's see a little bit more in detail what is this. A last bit of information is that 316 million euros are available concerning research and innovation actions related to the city missions in the period 2021 and 23. And these have to do with mobility, energy, and urban planning. But you can easily understand that it is not thanks to these 360 million euros, which makes 3.6 million euros per city, being the city 100, that it will be possible to achieve climate neutrality. For your information, we have now an Horizon 2022 call, which is designing inclusive, safe, affordable, and sustainable urban mobility, which will close on September 6, 2022. It is particularly important for those cities which have been selected, because they have a kind of advantage with respect to the other ones, in that being selected increases, let's see, your CV. And this just first a few words on what we have tried to do in Italy concerning the mission. We had 3 major events in which all cities were invited to attend, and we tried to be clear on what they were expected to do to fill up the questionnaire. By the way, cities who join the Covenant of Mayors have an advantage with respect to other cities because several data have already been available to them. And interesting for you probably to see how many cities applied. For instance, in France, you see these cities. In Germany, you see this cities. And in Italy, you see this list of cities, which is 37, which is a very large number. But this is where the eligible cities, and this is faster because, as I told you, on April 28 to 2022, the 100 cities were selected, and they are here. You can see them. Here is the link. This presentation will be available after, so you can go and see directly clicking this link, and just to show you which are the Italian cities which have been selected: Bergamo, Bologna, Florence, Milan, Padua, Parma, Prato, Rome, and Turin. No cities in the south, but there is a way to catch up. Why? By looking at the pillars. Pillars is, as I told you, climate city contract and mission platform. What are these two elements? The first is the kind of, sorry about this. This is the slide I had to show you. Apologies for that. So climate city contract and mission platform. The climate city contract is a sort of memorandum of understanding that will be signed by the measures of the political representatives of the cities and the commission. And the initial phase of the mission will help develop it. It has no legal value, but it is not a coincidence that it has been called a contract. Is how the city and the local government will intend to accomplish what has been mentioned in the application. The contract will include a range of activities, including the creation of large-scale European Union research and innovation demonstrators. This is very important for all the stakeholders, local administrators, universities, research centers, and the creation of innovative models for city governance and city engagement. This is something that the mission is pushing very, very strongly, the engagement of citizens in the events that I mentioned before that we organized in Italy. We indeed invited citizens to be part of these events, and we used the Slido and other survey tools to gather the opinions of the citizens. And of course, the climate city contract has to include an investment plan. Now, the second pillar, the mission platform. The mission platform has to help the cities of the state members who have been selected to accomplish this. So it will be the initial basis for supporting cities in the transition to climate neutrality as they begin to develop these climate city contracts. It will offer a range of support activities for the cities, including one space for large-scale demonstrators. I think that all people who are involved in research and innovation activities are very much interested in this bullet. The support for the development of tailor-made investment plans. There is a note here, I will get back to it in a few seconds. Innovative models of city governance and city involvement, and a common framework for monitoring, reporting, and verification. The mission platform will further support cities through networking and twinning activities. What does it mean? Networking is cities should see what are the common parts of the job they have to accomplish and exchange data concerning this common part. Cities should also be capable of accomplish that action of catching up. I was mentioning before, namely, for instance, in Italy, the cities in the south have not been selected, but it is possible this twinning activity, one city of the north and one city of the south could become a twin in a way, and be help and can help together in order to accomplish the mission goals. Here there is this note, I just noted that support for the plan will include the use of financial and technical advisory service to access public and private funding. Climate City contract, this is one example of something that is written in Italian because it has to do with my city, Bologna. Bologna is one of a 100 selected cities by European Commission to reach climate neutrality within 2030. And this is not really an example, this is the mission platform in a sense, because you should know that there is a project called the Net Zero Cities, which is a climate kick project, which is expected to support Europe, and in particular, European cities, to drastically cut down greenhouse gas emissions through climate action to achieve climate neutrality, one of the biggest challenges of our societies face today, and to, in practically speaking, represents this way to this mission platform, which is fundamental for the cities to accomplish their goal. So I think these were the main points I wanted to make about this mission. I think it's quite complex to achieve. There is a lot of activity taking place now. Every member state, in a sense, is trying to implement a coordination action in order to help these cities to gather funds, involve the stakeholders, involve citizens, do their best to achieve this. One example, just to conclude my speech, assuming I still have time, just let me please know whether this is the case.
Yes, you do.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I was saying just one example to think, for instance, to the concept of an energy community. Energy community is something on which the European Union has invested quite a lot of efforts, starting from the Directive RED 2, starting from all the activity that is being accomplished in this specific topic. It has been stated very clearly that by 2030, 20% of the energy which is produced in a city should come from energy communities. Energy communities are a cluster of prosumers, I mean, citizens who not only consume electric energy, but that can also produce electric energy by means, for instance, of photovoltaic panels on their roof of their building. Of course, they have also the interest to increase the efficiency of the building, which is one of the topic of this conference. But in order to do that, in order to accomplish that, citizens have to be convinced that gathering all together in an energy community represents a real advantage for them. There are several actions which are being implemented in several member states. For instance, in Italy, the use of incentives concerning the shared energy among the energy community has been one of the ways this energy community paradigm has been chosen to be helped. And so I let you imagine how complex and interesting in the same way is this the information the transmission of the relevant information to citizens, which have to change in a way their vision on how to use electricity, how to consume electricity, and also how to produce electricity. But this is one way, one of the fundamental components to accomplish this energy transition we are all interested at. I have heard a few speakers before myself saying how this is important, and certainly this mission is perfectly in line with that target. So now I really have finished my presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Nucci. I hope you can hear the applause from the audience, and thank you again for this very clear presentation on this very interesting topic of these EU missions. As before, I think I would suggest to defer any discussion to the discussion slot later in this conference, unless there is any very urgent question from the audience. So we will do that. We'll defer to the later slot, and we thank you again for your contribution to this conference. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Eduardo Croce. He is chair of Urban Europe Research Alliance and also chair of the Green Research Center, that is the Center for Geography, Resources, Environment, Energy and Networks at Bocconi University. He's a professor of practice at Bocconi University. He's also there the director of Sustainable Urban Regeneration Lab and a member of the management committee of this Green Research Center. At Bocconi, he coordinates the Green Economy Observatory and the Smart City Observatory and several European projects. He's chairman of the Urban Europe Research Alliance. He served as Milan Deputy Mayor for Mobility, Transport and Environment, as administrator of the Agency for Protection of the Environment of the Lombardy region, vice president of Federarne, the European Federation of Regional Energy and Environment Agency, and vice president of the Italian Agenda 21 Coordination Association. So I think you'll agree that he's uniquely qualified to participate in this conference with his presentation on key dimensions for driving the urban transition. Professor Croce, if you're ready. I think you are.
Yes, I'm not sure you see my presentation.
Yes, we do.
Can you? Yeah, okay. So that's perfect. Thank you for the invitation at this important conference. Actually, I will speak mainly as chair of WERA, Urban European Research Alliance. I will not talk about the several research projects we are now driving at Bocconi on the topic of urban sustainability, where we are active on several European projects. Anyway, starting from WERA, just a few words.
Eduardo, you might want to go into this.
Is a network of academia and research structures devoted
Eduardo?
to... yeah?
Can you hear? Oh, sorry for the interruption. You might want to go into this presentation mode for PowerPoint.
Oh, sorry.
Exactly, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see.
It's fine now, thank you.
Yeah. So, so WERA is a network of universities and research institutions devoted to urban topics with a multidisciplinary approach, going from urban planning to economics, to laws, to social sciences, to natural sciences, trying to put together a research agenda which is coherent with the European process of urban sustainability. This is WERA membership in 2021. We have 58 institutions in total from different countries in Europe. Now I will talk you about the framework of urban policies at the European level, and in order to do it, we have to start from both the Agenda 2030 and the new European agenda. The Agenda 2030, as you know, puts a specific goal, goal 11, on cities and touches all the dimensions of urban sustainability, from the environmental one to the social one to the economic one, in a specific goal, even if all the other 16 goals of the Agenda 2030 are in some way connected to cities. More than that, in 2016, the new European agenda, fostered by UN Habitat, has been adopted, trying to define some common principles to develop the new urban agenda based on different dimensions, again, on the social dimension, on the environmental dimension, on the economic dimension, and looking at governance, planning, spatial development, and innovation in finance to foster sustainability at the urban level. At the European level, as you know, even before the adoption in Quito of the new European agenda, of a new agenda, new urban agenda, a European agenda was adopted in May 2016, touching 12 urban challenges. Most of the challenges are linked to the environmental dimension, even if they touch all the areas really of urban development. Of course, energy and climate are key and are in some way transversal to all these different dimensions. At the European level, urban policy is not something that appears in the treaties, but developed over time. In some way, it was developed an urban policy which, first of all, of course, passes through national authorities, and in particular, it is the European Regional Development Fund and Cohesion Fund, which is the one where there are major resources devoted to the urban topics. But in some way, also, the European Commission drafted a series of initiatives which directly connect the Commission with urban governments, in some way providing a subsidiarity logic in which cities are directly involved in sustainable actions. Some of these actions, which in some way directly connect European Commission to cities, are here just mentioned. One is the European Green Capital Award, active since 2010. Every year a city is awarded this recognition of high standards of sustainability. A second initiative, much more recent, launched in 2020, is the new European Bauhaus, which puts together arts, culture, social inclusion, science and technology in order to foster a development of urban spaces which keeps into account all these dimensions. And the same year, a Green City Accord initiative was also launched in connection with several city networks, which participated actively with the Commission in drafting this program, looking in particular at 5 areas of environmental management: air, water, nature and biodiversity, circular economy, and noise, to improve the quality of life. What is interesting, I think, of both European Green Capital and the Green City Accord is the presence of indicators, the possibility to have some standardized indicators which allow for comparison and allows for the evaluation of city sustainability. Looking at the joint program initiative Urban Europe, the strategic research and innovation action 2.0, puts four main dimensions to drive urban transition. These are digital transition, urban robustness going beyond the resilience, urban sustainable infrastructures, and inclusive spaces. These dimensions are the dimensions which appear in the Driving Urban Transition Initiative, which WERA is actively promoting through its network, providing support to also to European institutions, but also to local governments in order to foster this transition. And where three pillars which are transversal to these four dimensions are key. One is positive energy districts, which is connected, of course, to the role of renewables in cities. The second is downsizing donut districts. This is connected to the circularity in cities, touching the concept of urban metabolism. And the first one is the concept of 15-minute cities, which envisions a city where there is the possibility to find all main functions and services in proximity of the places of living and working of people. Also, the Driving Urban Transition Partnership is connected to all the other dimensions of cities, from energy transitions to cultural heritage, to urban mobility, to biodiversity and circular economy, to urban health and well-being, up to aging society, migration, and inclusiveness. And we think that this initiative, which is now producing calls to support actually the Commission in developing the initiative, will deploy its capacity to support urban transition and will evolve over time in the next years. Looking at urban emissions in particular, urban greenhouse gas emissions in particular, this is of course connected to all the dimensions of the Driving Urban Transition Initiative, which are all connected to climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. Here you have a picture from the IPCC linked to the different per capita emissions in terms of CO2 equivalent of different regions in the world. And of course, you can see there are several differences where in developed countries, on average, you have 10 tons of per capita emissions. Of course, in Europe, the level is inferior, and in the US is superior. And then if you look at Asia, the average is about half, even if this means that, for example, at the moment, European and Chinese emissions in terms of per capita emissions are at the same level. And if you look, for example, at Africa, the level is on average something like 1 ton, and in some countries it is even inferior. So it is very clear that when we speak of cities, the situation is very different in different countries of the world, and in developing countries we will assist to an increase of emissions, while in developed countries the direction is the opposite. In some way, European cities can be an example at the global level for their policies in different areas for reducing emissions. A recent initiative going to net zero was launched at the COP26 in Glasgow, Cities Race to Zero. It involves several programs and networks of cities which put together to collect over 1,000 cities which pledged to reach net zero in 2040 or sooner, or by mid-century at the latest. And these pledges and this commitment is probably the largest one for cities to go carbon neutral. In some way, it complements similar initiatives which involve business or financial actors, but in this case, this is dedicated to cities. Of course, at the European level, the main initiative, which was mentioned several times today, is 100 carbon neutral cities, and 100 carbon neutral cities by 2030. In some way, 2030 is a symbolic year, but even in this case, not many cities will be able to reach carbon neutrality so soon. But the idea is to foster a process both at the global level with this initiative and at the European level, where cities actually can draft plans, strategies, measures which are coherent with carbon neutrality. The Covenant of Mayors is the basis of this activity. Even in the case of 100 neutral cities, the participation to the Covenant of Mayors is really the way in which cities get acquainted with methodologies and commitments to reduce emissions, which is very relevant. This program has been very successful in terms of involving cities, even if among the 10,000 cities included in the project, there is a strong majority of Italian cities, also because we have many municipalities, but also because Italian municipalities found this initiative interesting to be committed in climate topics. The initiative was originally launched in 2008 with the same target of mitigation of -20% by 2020, and then it integrated adaptation and also energy poverty. Also, the targets for mitigation increased in coherence with European targets, going first to -40%, and also with a longer, not yet, let's say, in line with a -55%, but also in the longer term, up to year 2030 with 40%, but up to year 2050 with a long-term commitment going towards climate neutrality. So the program really evolved over time in coherence with European policies. But regarding mitigation, it has some very key points which allow to use a standardized methodology. The first one is writing baseline emission inventories, which determine the emissions of the territory divided for specific sectors. And this knowledge element is key to start a decarbonization process. Then cities have to draft a sustainable energy action plan, which defines over time strategies and specific measures, and also the targets for this kind of measures. And then after implementation, there are periodic monitoring emission inventories which have to be delivered, showing the improvements. With the inclusion of adaptation, of course, it is also necessary to write an adaptation plan and to assess the vulnerabilities of cities, having this second pillar as relevant as mitigation. As I said, there are about 10,000 cities involved, not only strictly in the EU28, but also going out of Europe in terms of cooperation. And even if most of the commitments regard the 2020 time target, also there are about 2,500 cities which already defined the targets, more ambitious targets for year 2030. So I repeat, the initiative is evolving over time. Bocconi University recently developed a study together with the European Commission, the JRC, on the level of advancement of the Covenant of Mayors. The data set included 1,700 cities, looking at both at baseline emission inventories and at monitoring reports. It looks at all main sectors and the different instruments which are used in these different sectors to reach emission reductions. Actually, it shows that in this sample, but this is true in general, the target in year 2020 of 20% reduction was reached. In this case, in the sample, there is a reduction of 21% of emissions. More than half of the contribution is provided by buildings, while other sectors are also relevant, like transport and industry, but as you can see, buildings represent more than half of the reduction over time. Also, we assess the actions in terms of number of actions and reduction in terms of contribution of each action in terms of mitigation. And here you have a picture. You can see that most actions are concentrated in buildings, 40%. In transport, it is about 16%. In local electricity production, it is 10%. But if you look at CO2 reduction, you see that the actions, the initial measures in local electricity production and also in transport were able to deliver more relevant contributions to CO2 reductions than buildings. This means that buildings, there are many actions, but on average, they deliver less than the actions in local electricity productions and transportation, which are more concentrated but deliver more ambitious results. We also looked at the policy instruments used in building sector. I just, not just in buildings, but for the PrioritEE conference, I concentrate on buildings. I think can be of interest of our audience. Of course, we have the same results also for the other sectors. In buildings, we looked at municipal, residential, and tertiary buildings, and we look at the policy instruments which delivered the most results, both in terms of number of actions and CO2 reductions. And we see that in municipal buildings, it is energy management, followed by procurement, while in residential buildings, it is very relevant awareness raising and grants and subsidies, followed by building standards. And in tertiary buildings, again, it is awareness raising and followed by energy management, and then again, building standards and grants and subsidies. We think that these results are interesting, even if there are, of course, differences in number of actions and the contribution for CO2 mitigations, as I said. But this is indicative of different kinds of instruments that can contribute to mitigation, where, of course, management is key, but also financial instruments like grants, as in the case of Italy of the so-called eco-bonus systems can be relevant, but also there is a very relevant role of awareness raising. This means that a category of instruments linked to modifying behaviors can be also relevant. And in fact, in another recent publication, we consider the barriers limiting energy efficiency technologies in the building sector. As you know, most of the actions in the building sectors involve negative marginal abatement costs. This means that at the same time they can deliver a reduction of CO2 emissions with a positive return of investment because of energy efficiency and the contribution of energy efficiency also to economic efficiency. But as you know, there are several categories of barriers, and we analyze the barriers here for 5 different technologies which are relevant for buildings energy efficiency. And what you can see is that, of course, there are regulatory barriers which are relevant, there are economic barriers which are relevant, but also there are behavioral barriers which are relevant, and this is, I think, an important result when you talk about energy efficiency in building. In order to overcome these barriers, policies should be targeted through all different barriers, keeping into account them in order to deliver the results. Otherwise, the risk is that policies and measures will not deliver the expected results. Finally, Fit for 55 package will provide further reinforcement of actions in all policies for climate mitigation, including energy efficiency in building. There will be the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive, of the Renewable Energy Directive, which of course can provide a relevant contribution, but it is also forecasted that the European ETS, the emission trading scheme, will include buildings. It will include buildings in a different way from the traditional current ETS. This means that actually it will include the fuel distribution sector in order to limit the number of actors which will participate in this new ETS. It will be again an artificial market, an emission trading scheme, which will cover the distribution of different fuels for buildings in correspondence with the emissions incorporated in the different fuels. Relevant new measures in the building sectors which can help decarbonization. Also, together with the Fit for 55, we have to mention Next Generation EU. Next Generation EU is already committing relevant fundings. The only Next Generation EU over 800 billion funds in different countries, where Italy is top in terms of allocation of fundings. And as you know, green transition is the main area where these funds are located for recovery after COVID. And the building sector is present in all the plans in European countries as a sector where innovation, renovation of buildings and interventions for the decarbonization are foreseen. So in some way, the building sector, together with energy production and transportation, but more than those, as first leading sector, will be responsible of the green transition in the next years. And I think that beyond the policies which have been drafted at the European level, and beyond the voluntary commitment which comes out of initiatives like the Covenant of Mayors and the 100 climate neutral cities, the necessity of having tools and instruments which can be used actually by both public and private operators is very, very relevant, because there is a lack of knowledge which can be supported by capacity building and by making available tools. And in this case, again, I want to see that your project, the PrioritEE Plus project, is performing a very relevant role in order to habilitate this transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. And with the applause from the audience, also our gratefulness for your setting out the scene for the energy transition in urban Europe. I think that we all found your data on the impact of policy instruments and on the barriers particularly relevant for our own PrioritEE project. So thank you very much again. And with that, if we all agree, we'll move on to the last keynote speaker. She's Mariangela Fabri. She's the head of research at Buildings Performance Institute Europe, BPIE. She has over 15 years of experience in energy efficiency and climate change policy analysis, and a deep understanding of EU policy making. As head of research, she leads BPIE's research team and is directly involved in the policy work related to the implementation of the renovation wave and the energy performance of buildings directive. Before joining BPIE, she worked as an energy consultant at Danske Energy Consulting in Montreal, as a senior energy policy officer at WWF European Policy Office, and senior partnership manager for the climate business engagement unit of WWF International. She holds a master's in European political and administrative studies from the College of Europe and a master's in environmental law from Ca' Foscari University. So I think, yes, that you are ready, Mariangela, so please go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just a technical point. I have a double screen, so I'm not sure. I think you're seeing the wrong one. I'm trying to figure out how to share the right one.
We are seeing the wrong one, yes. So
yes, exactly. So that just give me a moment to figure this out. Maybe the easiest way would be to just put my presentation on the screen and see if it works. Just a second, because this doesn't seem to be working at the moment. It creates always some issues. So sharing the screen,
okay.
Here it is.
Okay.
Maybe we can make it.
You need to go to presentation mode in PowerPoint, but otherwise we can see it.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to do. I hope. Please confirm that you're seeing it.
No, it's the wrong one. It's a presenter screen.
What happens?
I
Maybe I find an easier solution. Let me just do this, and I will only show one, and maybe you can see it. I apologize for this. This technical issue is.
No problem. And
okay. Voila.
Now, yes.
Now you have it.
Yeah, now
it's
good.
Right?
Yep. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry for this. The double screen with some programs always causes some issues.
No problem.
So thank you very much for your invitation, and thank you for the previous speakers, because they have introduced the presentation that I wanted to give to you today, about the role really of the buildings in decarbonizing on achieving the climate neutrality in the EU. Some of the speakers have already mentioned this, but buildings are really a bigger contributor to not only the total energy consumption of the EU, but also the CO2 emissions. They are a big contributor of the EU GDP and of jobs, current and future job creations, but most of the buildings that were built before 1975 will also be, at least half of them, be standing and still in use in 2050. So we're really talking about a big part of our cities, where we work and where we live, and where our social interactions are happening. The role of the buildings in the EU policies has been increasing. Some of the former speakers already mentioned the different initiatives that are taking place. One really important element that I wanted to highlight is the role of buildings in achieving the EU target for 2030 and the climate neutrality target for 2050. We did a study when the Commission and the Council had agreed on increasing the greenhouse gas reduction targets for 2030 at 55%, and buildings really can deliver a large part of these savings. And the renovation, through the renovation wave and the Fit for 55 package, the importance of the buildings and decarbonizing the building sector has been increasing. So buildings can renovate and can contribute really substantially to decarbonizing the building sector. The renovation wave has adopted a target of at least 2% yearly renovation rate. Through our recent studies, we actually assessed that to meet the 2030 targets, we should triple the renovation rate, so really achieve at least 3% yearly renovation rate. But not only, but at least 70% of these renovations should be deep renovations. The EPBD directive that is undergoing a recast right now as part of the Fit for 55 is suggesting a definition of deep renovations. When we did this study, that definition was not available yet, and so we assessed deep renovations to at the very least 60% energy savings. So out of all the renovations that will happen, 70% should be deep renovations. We also estimated the potential annual investment that would be needed to pay for these renovations, and how they could be really broken down in terms of public investment to trigger the renovation and allowing a scaling up, but also how much of it should be dedicated to advisory services and technical assistance that are actually extremely useful and important for local authorities and cities and regions, and how which part of it should also be and could be allocated to kickstarting renovation at an industrial scale. So in this context, I just wanted to give you a brief overview of what and how the European legislation has been changing and how it has been driving and leading and the conversations and the investment, and hopefully the increase in renovation rates across the years. Since the new European Commission was entered into its role in December 2019, we've seen really an acceleration of political decisions that are really driving decarbonization, in particular in the building sector. Starting from the EU Green Deal, the renovation wave strategy that I already mentioned, and the Fit for 55 package that is really the set of legislation and policy framework that is supposed to deliver the European Green Deal. The Fit for 55 was launched last year, and it's already been mentioned. It includes a plethora of initiatives, including the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive, of the Renewable Energy Directive, the introduction of EU ETS, and the extension of EU ETS also to buildings, even though last week the European Parliament didn't seem to find an agreement on this. So this last policy might be encountering more difficulties than originally planned. And as part of the Fit for 55, the EPBD will be reviewed. And unfortunately, because of the invasion of Ukraine, the initiatives which are linked to getting off our dependency from gas have really triggered the Commission to publish new communications and strategies that are really giving an indication of the importance of where the attention should be given when it comes to investments. And this is also relevant for buildings. So the Repower the EU communication, which also includes the EU Safe Plan, were published a couple of weeks ago. I will not go through all of this, but I just wanted to give you this framework and this overview for you to understand really the speed in which all these initiatives have followed each other, and the opportunity that it really creates to address these issues on a European scale. But also, this means that it will become, there will be changes into national legislation, and member states and the different level of governance within member states. So again, the regions, the provinces, the cities will have a really important role to play. What I wanted to discuss with you a bit more in detail is the role and how member states have used the existing legislation and the obligations, but also the opportunities that stem from the clean energy package that was adopted only 4 years ago. It seems a very, very long time ago, but it's actually the legislation that is still currently in place, and in particular, how member states have used the opportunity and the obligation to deliver what is so far being called the long-term renovation strategies, to make sure that we could that they can actually start thinking in long term towards what is how to decarbonize the building stock. For those who are not familiar with the long-term renovation strategies, member states have the obligation to submit a plan to the European Commission. It's really explaining how they intend to decarbonize the building stock. This is an obligation that comes from the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and so far we have seen 3 rounds of long-term renovation strategies in 2014, 2017, and the last one was in 2020. BPIE has analyzed every time member states have submitted their long-term renovation strategies. But BPIE did an analysis to understand if every country was complying with the directive, but also what type of information was shared, and how detailed that information, and also how practical that information was to understand and to really provide an assessment of whether their plan to invest or develop new policies would deliver the savings that are required. You can find all these publications on our website. They're freely available, but the important really element to highlight is that there has been a learning curve. The first batch of renovation strategies was really disappointing, mostly because member states didn't have a specific template to follow or a very specific guidance on how to do that. And over time, we've seen an improvement on this, in particular in the information that they provide about the quality of the building stock. And this is really important also for cities and for local authorities, because the information about what is our building stock, what are the building typologies that we have, and inform the policies and the actions and the investment that are necessary to renovate and decarbonize them. Our last analysis of the long-term renovation strategies was delivered in 2 times. The first was in September 2020, right after the long-term renovation strategies were submitted. The deadline was March 2020. There was a big delay by many member states, so it was a challenging exercise, even though we were only trying to analyze the compliance. But in the second part, which was published in March 2021, analyzed more the ambition. So I'm really trying to understand we chose 8 member states, and we decided to see to what extent their measures they were promoting and they were included in their long-term renovation strategies were aligned with the objectives that they had of achieving a highly efficient and decarbonized building stock by 2050. As you can see from this image, the result for the analysis of compliance were not particularly positive. There was really only a handful of member states that had a positive, that received a policy assessment, but out of the 14 strategies that we analyzed, only one was deemed overall compliant. And as you can see here, there are different areas where it seems that the compliance was easier to achieve. And as I mentioned, the overview of the national building stock was one of that, or the list and presentation of policies and actions to simulate the cost-effective deep renovation. These were areas where member states are actually providing valuable and usable information. It's much more difficult when we start looking at policies to address energy poverty or the expected impact of the policies on wider benefits that include health benefits and economic benefits as well. When we looked at the ambition analysis, we only chose 8 member states, and you see them listed here on the screen. These 8 member states that we selected represented about 50% of the European population and a wide range of geographies and climate and country sizes. We tried to combine them so that they would become representative. What it's really stood out was that it seemed that there was more effort that was put into decarbonizing the energy supply systems rather than improving the energy performance of the buildings. And so this is also aligned in a way on a number of conversations that we've heard recently about the need to diversify supply in order to get off our dependency from import of fossil fuels for our supply. So it's no surprise that some of these elements were found also in the long-term renovation strategies. But it's also an indication of the fact that there is still probably an easiness or a better understanding in member states of and of how to decarbonize supply rather than investing to really renovate the building stock. And this is an important point, in particular from the perspective of a public authority. And if we connect it to the idea of energy poverty and the right to a certain quality of living, because a building, even if it's fully supplied by renewable energy, but if it's not properly insulated, and if its energy and if its overall performance is not improved, can remain leaky. So a leaky building is a drafty building, a moldy building. They remain exactly like that, even though they are supplied by 100% renewable energy, which is not to say that it's not absolutely necessary to be done, but there are elements that really require particular attention from member states to make sure that by decarbonizing the building stock, we can really reap all the benefits that come from it. Here you have in a very, very simple summarized table, the different level of ambitions for every country that we analyzed towards the decarbonization target and the efficiency target, so achieving a highly efficient building stock by 2050. As you can see, that part, the second part of the objective, is still seen to be very difficult for most countries to define and to include in their planning. We have been mentioning the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which is undergoing a recast, which is a revision, and we know that the long-term renovation strategies and the obligation for member states to deliver a long-term renovation strategy is also being included in the provisions. So we expect changes from that perspective, and we expect member states to change, to be required to deliver these renovation plan. They will change name. They will be likely called national building renovation plans, and there will be more stringent and more clear indications on how to deliver these plans and how to account for progress and how to monitor them, and also the frequency in which they should be included. If we really, BPIE has the core of our business, if we can call it like this, is really analyzing the European legislations and understanding how effective they are in meeting and reaching the European targets, and how member states use them and implement it for the same purpose. So we do know that there is certainly room to improve and to make the directive clearer and more demanding and more stringent. We have identified four main elements that require attention. So a holistic approach, also including considerations that go beyond the energy performance, really looking more at the whole life carbon performance of a building, the importance of improving and standards and providing tools to achieve climate neutrality for all buildings, and really incentivizing and triggering the introduction of an ecosystem of policies and measures for the whole building stock. It's really important that no part of the building stock will be left behind, because even though the large majority of the buildings across Europe are residential buildings, the non-residential buildings are also can really play an important role. If we think about public buildings, for example, with the importance and the opportunities that are provided by procurement, for example, that is also a really important element to be taken into account. And the fourth point, which has so far not been fully integrated into the directive, is really this notion of buildings for people, this notion that is also being highlighted by the EU Green Deal and the renovation wave, which is achieving a fair and just transitions that doesn't leave anyone aside or behind. So a renovation wave that has to be beneficial for the larger part of the population. This is my last slide that I wanted to conclude with, which is how the EU has responded to the crisis in Ukraine. Everything that I mentioned so far has been designed and presented and introduced before February 2022. So the element of security of supply and energy independence, even though has regularly been considered an element of importance, was not prominent in the conversations around the EU Green Deal, and especially in the conversations around the renovation wave and the role that the EPBD can have. The fact of the last few months have changed that. And in the communication that the European Commission has published recently, we see a reflection of this. Even though the communication as such does not introduce any regulatory instrument, it is clear the Commission makes an appeal to the European Parliament and the Council to actually be more ambitious when it comes to adopting and reviewing the Energy Efficiency Directive and the Energy Performance of Building Directive. They clearly put an element of importance in a faster increase of renewable energy supply by through a speedy rollout of heat pumps and the solar initiative. They really highlight the need to stop subsidies for fossil fuel boilers in buildings and the importance to save energy, even though, to be completely frank, in terms of specific provisions for the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, they've mostly mentioned a couple of elements, which is basically a tightening up, a more stringent introduction of minimum energy performance standards for existing buildings, and tightening the heating system requirements for existing buildings. Nothing is still decided. The next few months and the next year will be absolutely essential to understand where the European Union will go when it comes to really adopting the new legislation. But there is clearly a momentum that should be reaped, should be fully be considered and taken advantage of, to make sure that the contribution to the building stock in decarbonizing the EU will really happen, and it will happen at the pace and at the volume that is necessary if we want to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. That is also all that I wanted to discuss with you today. Thank you very much for your attention. As I mentioned, all our publications, everything that I've mentioned today is publicly available, and you can find it on our website. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mariangela, for this very nice presentation, which combined clear policy overviews with enlightening data to go with it. So thank you very much. And with that, I think we close this session on keynote speeches, and perhaps you have instructions for us, or Fulvia.
We are switching to the project session, in which we will show you the most interesting results that we achieved during both PrioritEE and PrioritEE Plus. And Fulvia will, as a project leader of PrioritEE Plus, will give you an overview of the project, the main activities, and how the results were transferred and disseminated in the communities. Fulvia, the floor is yours.
Again, good afternoon. This is a summary of my presentation. So we will have a brief background of the project, and after I will present the main activities of the Priority Plus, and in particular the decision support tool and activities put in place for transferring process. And finally, I will mention some results and outputs we have obtained that will be better explained by my colleague from University, Nova University of Lisbon. So I would, the speakers, Mariangela Fabbri, that I would thank you because she already presented the background in which the project fits in. Buildings are recognized to have a great potential to reduce energy consumption, and it is recognized by also by Green Deal, European Green Deal, and in the energy efficiency, energy performance of buildings directive. So this allows me to save some minutes and go directly to our projects. In particular, Priority project that was closed in 2019 was start from the fact that local administrators are coping with many barriers to undertake energy renovation of public buildings. So the main objective of the Priority project was to strengthen the competencies of local and regional public authorities in management of energy performance of public buildings. And the main tools developed was applied in 5 Mediterranean countries that was partners of this project: Italy, Portugal, Spain, Greece, and Croatia. As I said, the main output of the project was the Priority Toolbox that was composed by 4 main elements. The first 2 was very technical and included the energy technologies database and the decision support tool. And the other 2 regards aspect also important for energy renovation public building, and that are the increasing of energy awareness and increase of energy awareness regarding energy consumption. And the Priority Plus it was aimed to capitalize the main results obtained in Priority Plus, and it is a transfer project, and it aimed at providing through transnational cooperation the capacities of public authorities in the energy management of public buildings in their management of energy buildings. And the partnership is composed by 6 full partners. 3 of them are indicated as partners givers, in sense that they are already participated in the previous project, and they took their experience, they transferred the experience gained during this project to 2 other territories. So the giver partner was the IMAA, that was also a lead partner of the project. Here it is, and also the Priority Plus, the Priority, and the Nova University of Lisbon and the University of Zaragoza, the new partners that are labeled like as giver partners, that receive receiver partners that received the transferring are the National Laboratory of Energy and Geology from Portugal, the Municipality of Narni in Italy, and the Aragonese Federation of Municipalities, Counties and Provinces in Spain. The results of all this project of transfer are the signing of a memorandum of understanding from new territories, so municipalities, mainly municipalities, but also networks and in this case the National Laboratory of Energy and Geology. We have also a large number of associated partners that supported us in this exchange among giver and receiver partners. And so what we transferred? We have transferred the upgraded version of the PrioritEE DST tool. That is a tool that helps local and regional authorities to assess the cost effectiveness of a set of energy efficiency and renewable energy measures in public buildings. How we made this transfer? Through a structured capacity building that involved local authorities, regional partners and key local actors through this mechanism of givers and receiver partners. What is the decision support tool? It is a powerful tools, we can say, that helps support local administrators in taking a decision. In particular, it gives important information on how and where intervene on what buildings and with which intervention to reduce the energy consumption of the municipal buildings. In particular, it gives a list of interventions per buildings with a prioritization of the intervention. It is also useful to have a classification of and characterization of all the stock of the municipal buildings, and it is useful also in support the sustainable energy and climate action plans implementation in the framework of the Covenant of Mayors. The decision support tool was, during this PrioritEE Plus project, was upgraded by improving the front-end and back-end functionalities to make it more user-friendly. And we improve also the translation of the interface and tutorials, because this tool is available in all the languages of the partners of the yes, and we have applied this to new communities that are in the territories of the project in the framework of PrioritEE Plus, and also it was chosen by the efficient building communities to be applied also in other communities in the framework of city partnership twinning program, so in Italy and in Algeria. Okay, where we can find the decision support tool? It is available, freely available on the website of the project. After register, you can find in the website. You can register and obtain immediately the access. This is just an example of what we can found in this tool. This is the home page, and it provides a summary of the main parameters for all building included, and show the current status of data. This map is not a simple pinpoint map, but clicking on the pinpoint, you can see details on the specific building. And this is just to show you what data it's necessary to insert in the tool. So information about energy consumption regarding heating, cooling, and also windows and roof. Another important improvement is represented by the final reporting that can be directly obtained from the tool. It reports a summary of consumption for a single building, but also it reports benchmarking, providing an overview of the selected buildings. This show that what we have, where we have applied the decision support tool within the PrioritEE Plus, and about 80 buildings were characterized in. And regarding the transferring process, we have put together an articulated capacity building program that include technical support, technical workshop in local languages, because it was important to reach local administrators. And we had also study visit, activities of training, and we organized also thematic seminars in each countries to spread the dissemination of the decision support tool. Regarding the technical workshops, we have the two series. One that took place between May to July 2021, with the objective to promote the decision support tool within the communities of receiver partners. And it includes also hand-on session, and we discuss the relevant aspects for energy requalification and for the selection of public buildings. We had 68 attendees, among which municipal staff, local public authorities, technicians, and operating and management staff, researchers, national agencies, and so on. The second round was held between October and December, with the aim to present and the upgraded version of the decision support tool, and also it was a moment to discuss about the issues related to characterization of the selected public buildings. And it's important to underline that in the during the Spanish technical workshop, the mayor of the municipality of La Almunia signed our first memorandum of understanding. We had also study visit recently in Lisbon, organized perfectly by LENEG, our Portuguese partner LENEG, and the University of Lisbon. And this is just to say that for the national seminar, we had over 308 people participating in these events held in the three in Italy, Portugal, and Spain in local language. And we had also a wide activities regarding dissemination and transferring action. Here I reported only some examples of webinars and conferences in which the activities of the project, and in particular the decision support tool, was presented. And I would also underline that during in Portugal, the decision support tool were mentioned on new local climate change adaptation plan of the municipality of Arruda do Vinhos as a relevant tool for region. And we had also a training course. We are involved. We had already upgrade training course, and my colleague Norberto will present after me. And these are just other examples of participation of PrioritEE Plus in activities of transferring. And all these activities were converged in the subscription of a memorandum of understanding. They, in fact, demonstrate the effective transferring of the decision support tool and its concrete adoption by local administration. We foresee to reach three subscription, but we have today reached 8 signatories in total. 7 from the municipality, 7 in the framework of this project, of the PrioritEE project, and 1 in the framework of efficient building community. And this is all. Thank you.
View of the project, and now we leave the floor to Norberto Fueyo, full professor in fluid mechanics at the University of Zaragoza, and involved in many projects that will go in depth into the activities of the training material upgrade. And Norberto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lina. This will be a very short presentation, basically because Fulvia did an excellent job at presenting some of the training and capacity building activities. So she presented the upgraded decision support tool, for instance, the first bullet point there. And she also made a very comprehensive presentation on capacity building events. So I'll just very briefly focus on the new training materials that are available as a consequence of the project. And we have basically 3 kinds of materials. The first is these how-to briefs, which are basically leaflets, short leaflets with direct advice on key practical things related to building energy consumption or renovation. And we have classified these how-to briefs into pre-intervention, intervention, and post-intervention. There are several of them. There are 8 of them in all. And those are available from the website for downloading in several languages, indeed. So the second item is the training course materials. We have a set of self-guided lectures, let's say, or presentations on energy in buildings, and on the use of the decision support tool. So we have a couple of presentations, A and B here in this listing, which basically provide background information on how a building works energy-wise. And then from C to J, what we have is short tutorials for the use of the decision support tool that Fulvia introduced earlier. So that is all available, and it can be downloaded from the DST tool or DS tool website directly. And the third element is a set of presentations and video tutorials for the use of the PrioritEE decision support tool for achieving the best energy saving investment. Those were prepared by our colleague Marco Chabar as a part of some collaboration with the Interreg Euromed Academy. So it is like 4 lectures or 4 tutorials, if you want, again both with PowerPoints and with videos, so that people can build their own skills in using this user support tool or decision support tool. And I think that's my presentation, because the last item was events, but that was covered by Fulvia, as I said. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Norberto, for this overview of the training and capacity building activities that were very successful, because the tool was retained very interesting, and we disseminated it as much as possible. So the next speaker is Joao Gueia, that will talk about transferring of the PrioritEE tool. Joao is a professor at Nova University of Lisbon. He also has a wide experience in running projects, and was a very nice partner. I can say that we had the best partnership we may have. And Joao, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, online and in the room. So I'll briefly cover the results of the application of the DST tool to the case studies that Philomena also covered here. So I will focus mostly on three parts: the case study analysis and energy efficiency strategy, so one of the key outputs of the project. Then what we have discussed and the relevance of our national seminars, and also briefly the ultimate results of the memorandum of understanding on different locations and types of partners. So we focused, besides having like the 6 specific partners of the project, we also had several associated partners in the different locations, and we brought them into the discussion and analysis of the energy efficiency of their buildings. So 2 municipalities in Spain, Zura and La Almunia, Narni in Italy, and then not only the LNG partner in Portugal, but also the municipality of Arruda dos Vinhos and Ariana Tejo, a regional energy agency. So we brought a diversity of partners into this discussion to really assess the potential use of the tool in different contexts, geographies, climates, and also types of partners. So here on the screen you can see the location of the different partners itself and buildings where we tested our decision support tool. So first we started, because that's the key part of understanding what's happening in the buildings and in the regions. We started with case study reports where we delved into and started data collecting from different sources, looking into energy performance certificates when possible, looking into past projects, and that was unfolded all on a report with an overview of the pilot cases, the characterization and data collection, kind of setting the scene to what we wanted to do in the decision support tool and knowing what information was available. So on this report, we asked the pilots what was exactly their planning objectives and expected results. We described the pilot areas, which were the buildings we want to focus, what was the regulatory framework and background in the different regions at the country level as well, and then what they thought was the opportunities and barriers of the territory for energy efficiency renovation of buildings. So for that, in Portugal, as I was mentioning, we had 3 different partners, a municipality with their different specificities. Then we have the National Lab of Energy and Geology with the only office buildings, and then a regional energy agency, energy and environmental agency from significant different locations. So as you can see on the map, in blue you see the different locations of LNG buildings. So they are spread not only in Lisbon but in the south in Alentejo and in Porto region, so which brings also a different testing opportunity for the impact and the results of the decision support tool. For Portugal, we have a data set available, the public results of the energy performance certificates distribution per region. So we could kind of assess what was the background information for the region, and then looking specifically to the buildings we have tested. So on the Portuguese cases, the objectives were around, of course, the renovation of public buildings. That was cross-cutting. Adoption of and testing different opportunities for energy efficiency measures and renewable energy integration as one of the key outputs of our tool. But also, which is also, we think, a relevant part of our decision support tool, is a simplified version that people without any or relevant technical expertise on energy efficiency and renewable energy can really assess their portfolio of buildings. So besides that, the part not only of Priority Plus, but back then on Priority was a relevant part of capacity building and communication with the public administration at both, I would say, local and also national level. So that was also always an objective for us. Then the Italian case was the municipality of Narni, so located in southern Umbria, which has interesting features because they have a lot of buildings back in the 13th century and a lot of schools coming from 15th and 16th century. So they wanted to target their buildings specifically on schools, so that's what we tested on the decision support tool. So in Narni also they have a problem of the seismic reliability of buildings, so on safety. So they wanted also to understand how energy efficiency could be brought together with seismic safety. In Spain, 2 locations in Aragon region, in the northeast of Spain, as I mentioned before, Zuera and La Almunia, with different scopes of activity as well, but in general they wanted to renovate, of course, their buildings, bring renewable energy into their public building stock, and then also, which is relevant when using our tool, is also to understand the backbone of the problems of the energy efficiency of the buildings to apply for future funding. So I would say that our outcomes are also really relevant for that, to have a supported proposals for future funding. So overall, we had this, we have applied the DST in all these different locations for different typologies. So a lot of diversity to understand really the critical, I would say, advantages and problems of applying our tool and what might be the differences between regions and building typologies. Overall, this is now reaching an end, so we are finalizing the energy efficiency strategies for the different partners, where we are kind of looking back into the case study descriptions, the selected building characterization, and then looking to a diversity of assessments by building, by region, by type of partner, to assess measures, prioritization, and what might be the next steps for action. For that, we are not only looking into the, I would say, automatic feature of our decision support tool that allows this benchmarking process and, say it again, automatically retrieving the results, but looking into specific indicators and specific comparisons when needed for in-depth assessment of the building stock. So for that, as I just mentioned, so we are, and it depends on, of course, on the local authority and partner, but we might be doing geographical distribution or by building typology, looking in depth into some typologies, or a cluster of buildings in a specific region. So the results can be really diverse, either by indicator impact or all of this. So it's a matter of the partner to choose what might be the best case for them, what they really want to unfold. So just a brief overview of the potential of the results and the indicators we have. It can be a choice by energy savings. It can be by CO2 reduction or the investment needed per user, per area. So there are a lot of possibilities. And that's what I recommend you to look into our online tool to see its potential use. So another example for a Roda dos Vinhos. Here it's also interesting to say that our decision support tool, as we have done it on Priority Plus now, is more supported on EPC data, so energy performance certification data, which creates a structure of data which is easier to use and bring to our tool. Online, we have also a presentation where we show how we could connect, on this case on the Portuguese side, how we can connect the energy performance certificates data into specific inputs needed and parameters needed on our tool. But in the past, on PrioritEE, for example, we didn't have as much energy performance certificates available for the regions at the time. So this shows the potential use of the tool in different scopes and different levels of data availability. So I would bring just a few interesting insights that we already that we have included on our strategies. For example, for Spain, there was this discussion about the biomass boilers being considered a problem. So we have it on the tool, but looking specifically to the partners and to the local authority, they say this is a problem because of maintenance and biomass storage. So it's not only about technology and cost effectiveness, it's also looking into the limitations or what the public authorities are saying. For example, on solar PV, we can give an initial stage of assessment, but of course, looking to specifically to the building, to the roof orientation, to the shadows and the profiles of consumption, that's where we can really get an assessment of the potential of solar PV integration. I summarized in 2 slides, and I'll try to make it short, what we understood as the barriers for implementation of energy efficiency in public buildings, which a few of them are across, I would say, across all building types. But specifically here for local authorities, I think this is even, on one side, more urgent, but on the other hand, even more difficult, because specifically I would say, first, the need of public funding, and then the lack of technical personnel. I would give the example of Portugal, and I'll talk about the national seminar in a second. But coming from the Recovery and Resilience Plan from the EU, there is no funding available. The government didn't allocate funding for local government buildings. So it's only for central government services, buildings, shops, and hairdressers, and so on, and for the residential sector. So there is a gap where our local authorities cannot apply for funding. So this is a huge limitation overall. Then, of course, municipalities are small across the Mediterranean, no economies of scale. So there is where I find relevance. That's why we brought also an energy agency into this discussion, to create these economies of scale, bringing municipalities together. Also the diversity of building typologies and their intermittent use, geographical dispersed municipalities, so they don't have a lot of people also. Then, of course, the budget constraints. So we are needing for a lot of money for investing in energy efficiency and renewable energy, but there are decisions to be made not only between buildings as we test on our DST, not only within the region of, let's say, on the energy efficiency scope, but also how municipalities, for example, can support energy poverty mitigation, or even the private residential buildings renovation on one side. Then on other topics, on mobility, on green spaces. So there is a lot to do to renovate cities and to change them for a more sustainable path, but not a lot of money to choose from. Then, of course, aging population with other types of requests. And then in most cases, municipalities have a lot of money being spent in lighting. So that's where their main priorities overall. So on the tool use, I'll just summarize here a few things. So people said throughout both projects that, and even that was further improved, as Norberto and Filomena mentioned. So the tool turned out to be even more easy to use. It has a friendly online interface, quick results with real-time changes, a lot of possibilities for comparison between type of measures, buildings, and indicators, and as kind of good data management capabilities. On the downsides, people identified a bit of training needed, of course. This is not really a difficult tool to use. That's why we also put online training materials, as Norberto already highlighted. It can give a general overview of the building stock, not detailed calculations, as for example, the softwares doing that for the energy performance certification. On the national seminars, and because it was already mentioned, I will just go briefly on this. So we wanted really to not only show our PrioritEE Plus results and decision support tool, but also an opportunity to foster discussion in our countries about energy efficiency of this type of buildings. So in Italy, it was around that, on the reduction of improving energy efficiency and the reduction of emissions in public buildings, with a few cases being unfolded. In Portugal, we had over 250 participants online. We brought people from the funding agencies, from the National Energy Agency. We highlighted a lot of discussion about the policy context and financing, so this attracted a lot of interest by the public authorities and energy agencies and other types of stakeholders, NGOs and so on. And then in Spain was most focused on different municipalities of the region, so trying to scale up the decision support tool uptake. At the end, so one of our key outputs was also, as mentioned already, the Memorandum of Understanding. So this was really, in the beginning, was focused to the 3 receiving partners, but because we were able during the project to roll out the decision support tool to other locations, we got more on that, let's say, on that output. So we have already 5 municipalities and 2 institutions overall. So the institutions are coming from Portugal, the Energy Agency, and the National Lab, but we are still expecting until during the next days, I would say, another municipality and another regional energy agency from the Portuguese side. Filomeno also mentioned the one from this MEDNER association, and that will support the decision support tool uptake in other regions. Thank you.
For this very nice presentation that show in an exemplary way all the work done and how the local authorities were supported by our project. And this session is concluded with this presentation. I would like to leave the floor to Joao, that is our next chair, for the concluding session on results from other projects.
So now we'll start a session where we... Yeah, just near the mic now. So we are going to start our last session, where we'll start with Professor Norberto Fueyo from University of Zaragoza. Carmelina already introduced him, so maybe you can start with your presentation, where we'll focus on a cross-cert project looking into the energy performance certification at European level and giving some insights on that. Go ahead, Norberto. Thank you.
This is a project which started about 9 months ago, so we don't have perhaps many results to show, but I'll briefly perhaps discuss with you what we intend to achieve in the project. So it started in September last year. It is a coordination and support action involving 11 European countries and 12 partners. And the aim is to improve or contribute to the improvement of the energy performance certificates for buildings in Europe. This is a very hot topic, this of EPCs, energy performance certificates, very hot topic in Europe, and in fact there are a number of what we call sister projects working on this topic, of which CrossCert is only one of them. So what can be improved in EPCs in Europe? In our view, in our proposal to the European Union for funding of this project, these were the main topics to be improved: robustness, added value, user centering, and convergence in Europe. And those were the 4, let's say, legs of this project, as shown on the right-hand side. Work packages 3 to 6 were addressing those precise topics. And the means to address those topics was what we call cross-testing. I'll come to that in a minute. So we cross-test, and then we derive possible improvements in all these aspects. What is cross-testing? Our approach to this improvement was very simple. It was, let's get each country to use the testing protocols of other, the EPC protocols of other countries and see what happens. So this is our approach. Let's learn by doing, let's learn by cross-testing. All in all, we are working with about 150 buildings in all usage categories, as you can see here, from single-family houses to buildings for religious activities, for instance, and across these countries, which involve many different climates as well. So that's quite a challenge. In fact, the first difficulty for cross-testing is climate, and perhaps we didn't think about it enough when we set out to do the project. Here you have on the right-hand side the climate prevailing at the sites of all these buildings that we are using in our project. We are using to characterize the climate the annual cooling degree days and the annual heating degree days. And what you can see here is that we have very different climates from the ones in buildings in Greece, for instance, here in this corner, to buildings in Austria or Denmark or even Croatia here in this corner. So very different climates. And of course, the problem here is the national certificates often work only with the national climate. So it is very nice to say that you're going to test a Spanish building in Denmark, but then you'll find that there is no Spanish climate in the Denmark on the Danish EPCs. So we came up with a way of solving that, but in the interest of time, I probably won't discuss this. It is here for you to see. We came up with a way of overcoming this climate problem. So what is it to be improved in these certificates? And the first item that I highlighted was robustness. How robust are these energy performance certificates? And robustness, there are two views to robustness. One of them is the performance gap, and that is how accurate the EPC is in predicting how much energy the building will need. But the second aspect, which is often overlooked, is repeatability or consistency. So if I get a second tester to go to a building and do the certificate, will they get the same results as other testers or different results? Well, here you have some indications of this robustness from previous studies. This is from a study in the UK by one of our partners, Dave Jenkins and co-workers at Hereford University. This is 29 homes evaluated, each of them 5 times by different organizations. So 5 EPCs for each home. And you can see here for the different homes, the 29 homes, the dispersion in the EPC rating. So it is really difficult to get different people to agree on what the EPC rating should be for the same building even. So that is indeed a problem. Why the lack of robustness? And again, Dave and colleagues have studied this problem, and there are several reasons. For instance, different assessors will even not agree on the floor surface area of each building, and that is a basic thing. But if you dig in even deeper, then, for instance, they will not agree on the roof efficiency rating, or on the lighting efficiency rating, or on the number of showers per day which are needed under the UK certification procedure that people take in that building. So it is really hard. So uncertainty in input data, including U values or areas or thermal bridges, insufficient or inadequate training of the people doing the EPCs, and insufficient description of the methodology in some cases are the main findings of this study. And these all have an impact on robustness. This is for Italy, a similar exercise with 162 experts assessing one single building independently. And again, you can see here for the different experts, up to 162, the very different energy consumption per year that they assess. So again, very hard to be robust when you have this discrepancy in the assessment that different people do. So this is what we do in CrossCert for trying to improve robustness. We will study this performance gap. We will study new scales and key performance indexes. We will evaluate the renovation measures that the EPCs recommend. We will work on verification and control of assessors. And we will see whether new EPC approaches will be a significant improvement to this robustness situation. The second big aspect is adding values to EPCs. How can we increase the value or the usefulness of EPCs? First of all, the exploitation of EPCs databases is something in which there can be significant improvement. But then also the adaptation of EPC data to specific sectors, such as financing, for instance. And also the relation to other emerging and existing building tools like energy audits or building renovation passwords or logbooks, for instance. And finally, one-stop shops. So here you have an example of, here in Italy again, of these energy performance certificates being used to assess the energy poverty in Bologna, just by using the ratio of energy expenditure in a home to the income. So there are many useful uses for these EPCs beyond simply rating buildings. Here's what we propose to do in CrossCert for this aspect of adding value. We have partners working on databases, administration databases. We have partners working on user and investor needs, linking to energy audits, logbooks, and building renovation passports and one-stop shops within this WP4 of CrossCert. And in respect of user-centric aspects, what we find currently is that there is a rather low uptake of these energy performance certificates by end users. There is a very interesting deliverable in the CrossCert website that you can look up for more data. But from this study, recent study here, you will find that currently there is generally a low user uptake of EPCs. For instance, in the case of Germany, EPCs are not considered a reliable tool for building renovation. It is more like an admin obligation. That is perhaps also the case in Spain. In the UK, only 18% of the recipients find the information in the EPC useful. In the Netherlands, only 10% of the people think that the EPC has an influence in the process of purchasing property. And in Denmark, whereas they find that the EPC is reliable and easy to understand, they think that it is not enough to do building renovation work. So there's a lot to improve here in respect of user-centric aspects of these building renovations. Here you have the use of EPCs in transactions, whether it is selling, buying, or renting buildings. And the use or the availability is rather low in some countries, like for instance in Poland or indeed in Spain. So people are not using these certificates when transacting in properties, buying, selling, renting. I'll skip that one. This is what we are doing for this aspect of EPCs in CrossCert. We are analyzing the current user experience, researching on new needs, researching on the need to train EPC issuers, research on the need for better marketing and promotion of EPCs, and issuing some guidelines for developing people-centered EPC products and services. And finally, European convergence. There is a great interest in converging these EPCs in Europe. That is a very hard task, starting with the fact that even the methodology is very, very different in these countries. For instance, the current directive allows countries to base these EPCs on modeling or on measurements, and different countries do different things, and these different things make this convergence very, very difficult. So for harmonization, we have these activities in the project. First of all, we are, of course, connecting to the EPC community in Europe. Then we are creating an EPC knowledge exchange center, and then we will be issuing recommendations for EPC harmonization. So this is a summary of the project: 12 partners, 11 countries, 150 buildings, 3 years, and 3 million budget. You have the full list of partners on the right-hand side. And then the last slide is the website, where you will find more material for the project. So thank you very much.
So following this presentation, I invite Professor Vincenzo Bianco, a full professor for applied energy at the University of Genova. He has an extensive expertise on the field of energy, ranging from the technical to the market issues in research and industrial contexts. He'll be talking about Reno on-bill, residential buildings energy renovations with on-bill financing. So,
thank you. So thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. I am here this afternoon to present some results of the Reno on-bill project, which is a European project financed in the framework of Horizon 2020. So the aim of the project was to address some of the barriers hampering energy renovation in the residential sector. And in particular, we answered to one of the main concerns of the European Union, which is how to attract private financing into energy efficiency market. Currently, some of the main barriers to attracting private financing in energy efficiency are those that you can see on the chart. And in particular, one which is very relevant is the fragmentation of investments, because when we talk about residential buildings, we are considering the house of people, and so the volume of investment, of each individual investment, is very small, and so this is not attractive for financial institutions. So there is the necessity to create an aggregations in order to attract relevant volumes of capital. So here you can find deeper focus on the financing barriers, and I want to attract your attention on the risk assessment, which is something quite relevant and somehow connected with the previous presentation, since it is difficult to estimate the real value of energy efficiency. And one of the reasons was showed before, since there is no agreement, on the amount of energy efficiency you achieve. But energy efficiency is the driver to generate cash flow for financial institution, and so there is a scarce trust on financial institution on investing in energy efficiency. Also because there is a lack of capacity, in the sense that usually in financial institutions you cannot find people with an energy background, and so the situation is quite complicated. So what we thought in Reno on-bill project. In the Reno on-bill project, we thought to consider the utilization of on-bill schemes to overcome these barriers. What is an on-bill scheme? First of all, let me say that on-bill schemes have run for several years in the United States quite successfully. And on-bill schemes consider the energy utility as an aggregator, and I would say that it is a natural aggregator, since all of us are clients of energy utilities for the energy services. And energy utilities are used to manage a large portfolio of clients, usually with a small amount of money associated to each user, because finally a residential user for a utility provides a small amount of money if compared to the whole portfolio. So they have no problems in managing the fragmentation of the customer basis. And so how the scheme works. Energy utility will provide the upfront capital for implementing the energy efficiency renovation, and this capital will be paid back to the utility on the bill. The mechanism, so conceptually, is quite simple, but there are a number of difficulties that could arise in its practical implementation. The main barriers to the on-bill schemes are regulatory, since if utilities are providing finance, they are performing an activity that in Europe is very well regulated, since it is a financial activity. Then we have customer-related barriers connected with the so-called split incentives from one side, and from the bias that the residential customers can have. And finally, there are utilities-related barriers, which involves both operational issues in managing these programs, but also strategic issues. So, first of all, which could be the issues with the financial regulation? When the energy utility is providing upfront capital to household, this is a lending activity, and money lending can be only performed by financial institutions. In the European Union, there is a strict regulatory framework for this. There are some possibilities for lending money in order to develop energy efficiency project, but still it's something quite strict, and a regulatory change would be necessary. On the contrary, in the United States, there is not this constraint, and so the schemes works quite well. Instead, the other part of the circle, the collection of money from households in order to pay both the energy component and the repayment of the upfront capital, is a core business of an energy utility, and so there is no problem. Also, let me say that regulations, the details of the regulations, may still vary from one European country to another. So this is the simplest workflow for an on-bill schemes, and this is the so-called on-bill financing. On-bill financing is a scheme where the utility finances energy efficiency investment with its own funds, or partially with the own funds plus public funds that in some cases may apply. Usually they use a service provider that can be an in-house service provider, like an in-house ESCO owned by the utility, or it can be an external provider. And this provider analyzes the situation in the residential dwelling to refurbish, and proposes the necessary energy efficiency measures. Then there is the execution by the service provider of the energy efficiency measures, and then the intervention is accomplished. So the final users will have two components on each energy bill, which are the components relative to the repayment of the capital necessary to implement the energy efficiency renovation, and then there is the components related to the energy consumption. Clearly, the component of energy consumption will be lower after the intervention. And in some cases, the so-called golden rule can apply, which is that the saving obtained on the energy component exceeds the cost of the repayment. And so finally, there is a net saving on the bill for the users. For example, this could be realistic right now, since natural gas prices exploded due to the war between Ukraine and Russia, and so in the current context, this could be perfectly achievable. Then another scheme would include the presence of financial institutions. Financial institutions provide the necessary capital to the utility. Maybe this capital can be secured in a so-called escrow account. And then the schematic is exactly the same. There is a service provider, in-house or external, analyzing and implementing the measures. Then the final user will repay the investment on the bill, plus they pay the energy part of the bill. The money goes to the utility, and the utility will need to repay the capital to the financial institution, and so there will be in this exchange a margin for the utility and a margin for the financial institution. I don't know why the links are not available here. Anyway, there are here two links to two papers we developed where there is the detailed description of the project. Maybe we can try to click and see what happens. Okay. So this is one paper that you can download for free and have all the details of the schematics. Then another barriers that can be applied, that applies for on-bill schemes, but this is valid in general for all the energy efficiency schemes, is the problem of the split incentives, because usually there are divergent interests between tenant and owners. So here you can see different categories of split incentives, energy-related split incentives. When the tenant is in charge of paying bills, the owner is not interested in developing any kind of energy efficiency renovation because it does not affect its income. Or there are usage-related split incentives, which is the opposite situation, where if the bill is included in the renting, the tenant is not interested in implementing any kind of virtual behavior because they do not pay the bill. And so this is a problem, and here behavioral change should be supported. Then there is the problem of multifamily buildings, where there could be a divergence of interest within the different owners or tenants within the same buildings, which generates a high level of conflict. Then there could be temporal split incentives, where the payback period for an investment is very long, and there are uncertainties on both sides, tenants or owners, if they will somehow exploit their investment in energy efficiency renovation. On-bill schemes helps to solve some of these issues, in particular the energy-related split incentives and temporal split incentives, since on-bill schemes can be applied to the meter. We may have meter attachment schemes, and so the on-bill schemes can be transferred to the next customer. This is particularly good when we are in a market where most of the dwellings are run by tenants. And so the next tenants can come into the house and benefit from the previous on-bill schemes and pay the part of on-bill schemes which is attributable to him depending on the time he occupies the dwelling. This is very performing when we are in areas where the turnover of flats is very high. So usually in large urban areas, like in Italy, for example, this could work in cities like Milan and Rome and so on, where the time where the flats are unrent is very short or is equal to zero. And so there is a quick turnover and the house is never empty, and so the on-bill scheme can work quite well together with the meter attachment. And then there are the energy utility barriers, because when we talk about energy efficiency and the utilities, the relationship can be contrastant, since when we talk about saving energy, we are affecting the core business of a utility. And usually utilities are very large companies. Now, when we talk about utilities, it's also important to understand which kind of utilities we are going to discuss. Since, let me say that in the game of energy efficiency, some utilities can be winners and some other utilities can be losers. For sure, power utilities can be winners, and they have all the interest in promoting energy efficiency renovation. Why? Because today, when we talk about energy efficiency renovation, at the same time we push the electrification. And so this is a positive for the power utilities, which can increase the sales of electric energies at one time, from one side. From the other side, they can promote new business related to energy efficiency renovation. So they can offer two services. Natural gas utilities are the losers because all the measures that you can implement related to, for example, heating systems will negatively impact the energy sales of natural gas utilities, which will need in the long term a reposition on the market. District heating utilities may have opportunities to optimize their operation through energy efficiency. Retailers are neutral because they sell services, and the energy efficiency is a service. So if they send energy efficiency instead of natural gas, is something totally neutral. DSOs are particular utilities because they are utilities of a public interest. They are natural monopoly, and they, in on-bill schemes, they can play the role of facilitators. There is an upcoming paper on this, where we present business models where DSO could support the development of on-bill schemes. Finally, I want to present the REN-on-bill analytical tool very quickly, since it is well connected to the previous presentation. Because in the previous presentation, we observed that when different auditors assess energy efficiency, we have a huge dispersion in the results. One possible answer to this problem is that energy analysis is highly volatile. It is affected by uncertainty. But we are assessing energy efficiency with a deterministic approach. So there is a kind of contradiction, since we want to analyze in deterministic venue something which is highly probabilistic. So first thing. Second issue, that when we analyze the financial return of energy efficiency investment, usually we have a silos approach, because we develop the engineering analysis on its own, then the financial analysis is analyzed on its own, and maybe the risk analysis, which is not very popular till now, but relevant for financial institution, everything is analyzed in silos without connection. To improve the correspondence between what is designed, what is evaluated with what we measure after the implementation, it is necessary to switch from a deterministic to a probabilistic and integrated approach, where engineering analysis, financial analysis, and then risk analysis are developed all together. So we don't need to work anymore in terms of deterministic values, but probabilistic values and probability distributions should be obtained. Finally, what we can say is that a project is able to determine an energy efficiency of, 100 plus or minus X%. So we can give the results in terms of range. We cannot give the results in terms of a single number. So here is the workflow of a tool that we developed. Here you can find the details of the methodology on a paper. And here you can see the screenshot of our tool, which is available online. Here. Also, this is the link for accessing the project online. I add the link to the Renonville project webpage where you can download and also you can download locally your tool. You will find all the information here, and if you want to try the tool, it's free, open access, and open source, so you can even modify if you like. In order to make analysis, energy efficiency analysis, and financial analysis and the risk analysis with a probabilistic approach. So, in conclusions, on-bill schemes can be a valid instrument for attracting private capital in the market. The role of utilities as an aggregator is relevant because they are the industrial players of the energy market, so they cannot be neglected. Depending on the market context, the kind of interventions and the size of the optimal interventions may change. Some regulatory issues can arise, and then in the appraisal of energy efficiency project, it's necessary to switch from a deterministic to a probabilistic approach in order to have results which are more credible and more close to the measured data. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vincenzo. So now we have our last speaker, Peter Schilken from Energy Cities online. So Peter has coordinated and participated in numerous EU-funded projects over the last 25 years. So he also contributes to the Energy Cities policy work by monitoring the EU and national energy efficiency directives, with past work on consultancy and other activities. So Peter, go ahead. Thank you for your presence here today.
Thank you for the invitation, and also thank you for being still with me. So it's already quite late, and there were a number of presentations. I would like to talk about the Efficient Buildings Community Initiative, which is a horizontal Interreg Euromed project. So we are a consortium of 8 partners now. It's a project also like the PrioritEE project, which is about 2 periods. The first one was from 2017 to 2019, and now we are in the final phase. So the project is coming to an end by the end of this year. Energy Cities is involved in the community in two work packages, basically in the transferring activities and capacity building workshops. So we were also organizing a workshop last year in June, where we had a presentation from 6 projects which have developed tools and instruments and energy efficiency in public buildings, and PrioritEE was one of these 6 workshops. And we are also strongly involved in the city partnerships, twinning activities between North and South Shore of the Med Sea. And we are coordinating the capitalization policy work in the project. And one important part of the efficient buildings action is really the promotion and the transfer and replication of the decision-making tools or instruments which have been developed by the 10 modular projects. So, and this is where I also would like to focus on, and it's really in line with what we heard before. So I think what I learned that there are many initiatives on the EU level, and the Covenant of Mayors was mentioned as one. And Energy Cities is also strongly involved and leading the secretariat since its very beginning in 2008. And we have also the EPBD and the EED. So I think on EU level, things are really running very well over the past years already. What is missing is the national level, which is really behind the ambitions, let's say, of what is happening on EU level. And we also see that cities play a key role and that we need cities. And that's also what Energy Cities tries over the years, that we get our members and all the members of the Covenant of Mayes acting on energy efficiency in buildings. So we also learned that buildings are a big contributor to the CO2 emissions and that they can deliver so big reductions. So, and we have to act if we want to become neutral in carbon in 2050 or even earlier. So, and we need instruments to be selected to enable us to really implement actions and realize energy savings in public buildings. So what we are doing within this efficient buildings community, we have developed, or we are covering 4 thematic fields of intervention of our local authority. So the first you see on this slide, it's in construction, renovating and management and maintaining the public building stocks. And this is something which also has been managed in one of the previous presentations. That's for public buildings. The management and maintenance is a key factor, and a key factor where we have to act. So we have out of the 10 projects which have been supported, there are 3 which are dealing with these management and maintenance instruments. So one is your one's PrioritEE, and the 2 other ones are Impulse and T-schools. But then we have also a second field which is dealing with promotion of energy efficiency and building awareness raising activities. So this is also something more addressed to the building users and to the building owners. Very important, we have also seen already, is financing and procurement. So, and the national, the last one, sorry, is involvement and training, and also support from the national energy agencies or activity, organizations. And next to these fields of action, we have also identified 4 types of instruments, and we will see them also on the next slide. So first, more tools. So basically online tools which have been developed. The second one is methodologies, guidelines, books. The third one are platforms for exchange of experience. And the last one is e-learning, training programs, etc. So looking how we present the outputs, I took the example of the Impulse project. So you can see a map on this slide where the project is implemented. So in the green spots are the successful cases, and the yellow one are those countries or cities where we try to implement the tool now with some major adjustments. And then we see also the other countries where adaptations are needed, and make the, in particular in the South Shore, the application a bit more complicated. The tools in Impulse is also a creation very similar to PrioritEE of a kind of decision support system for planet energy efficiency measures in public buildings. and to speed up the sustainable energy and efficiency action plan. So it's really something also which helps local authorities to develop their CCAP. And so what is going a bit maybe beyond priority is that they also have developed some key performance indicators which at the end of a renovation action can show the success. There is also a booklet which helps local authorities to to make use of the tool and to get some additional information. So how do we present each tool? We present each tool on the so-called EBC tool fact sheets. All in all, you can find 25 fact sheets on the different tools and methodologies. And out of these 21, there are 3 dealing with priority. So the one is a more detailed description of the decision support tool. The second one is dealing with how to brief. And the third one is the repository. And you see also that we put a big emphasis on the replicability of each tool. So we see for priority, we say it's high potentials. And we really inform people also on the language which are available. So we learned a lot about of barriers, but also if language is still a big barrier in particular in Southern European countries. So it's good to have the tools available in the national languages. And we have, of course, a link to the tool itself and a short description of the tool itself. So as time is going very fast, I would show also the Edo footprint, which I think personally is a very interesting project because it's a simple tool, a simple calculator, which is showing the CO2 footprint for schools. And it gives really stimulation and animation for action from the building users, because also user change of behavior can have an impact on the energy consumption of the building. So that's a nice tool, sorry, and it's very easy to handle. And we have also guidelines developed under Edo footprint, and it's also a platform for exchange of experience. Then what is also interesting and maybe helpful for you when you are looking for the right tool which you would like to use, or the instruments. So we have divided the kind of national roadmap into a local roadmap. So a city roadmap is the different phases of the building renovation process, the strategy development, and you can see on this slide for each phase which tools have been developed by the modular projects and which we consider as relevant to be replicated and to be implemented by local authorities. And so, for example, you can find the PrioritEE decision support tool in the analysis of the current situation. So it's really very helpful in these first two phases of the development. It's less interesting when you're going to look for financial tools and instruments. And if you have from your project any ideas and think this slide is not, our project is missing, it can do more, you are more than welcome to contact us and to say and make us aware of more capacities of your tools. So, And I also would like to invite you to size the opportunities we are proposing till the end of this year within the efficient building project. So we are organizing 6 North-South city partnerships, and we are currently organizing the first meeting. So one of the meetings is next week in Potenza. That's also the reason why I'm not there today. I come next week, and then we will have hosting the city of Mostaganem in Algeria. So they want to implement PrioritEE in the decision support tool in their local authorities. And we have also a city from South Italy as associated partner, and they will implement the tool as well. And we have 5 more city partnerships, and I think there is room for also for the use of PrioritEE in these other city partnerships. And we will also organize a final conference on 5th and 6th of October in Cyprus, where you will have the opportunity to present your tool and to get in touch with more local authorities from the south. And maybe this is also something I learned over the past years. So the challenge we are facing is not the development of the tool or the instruments. It's really the upscaling and the EU-wide promotion, the rollout of these tools. And this needs really a strong will from your side, and it needs more than 3 or 5 years, because it's a never-ending process. You really have to have many opportunities to present the tool, and yeah, it's good to see that you have these training tutorials, for example, which are very helpful. I learned this from previous projects. What I still miss, and maybe this is another opportunity for you in Interreg Europe, Med now, but Nicola can confirm this, is a kind of help center or support center, because when cities are trying out to implement the tool, they always have a question, and then having a support center where they can address the questions is always nice and very helpful. So, and one thing which I learned also from my previous project is that twinning is really a good thing for giving a bigger support and a stronger follow-up and better chances for replication and implementation. And so I saw with that the 100 CO2 neutral cities 2030 is also promoting twinning. So this might be an opportunity also to promote your tools in this program. And at least also efficient communities is working strongly together with 2 more projects, which are going a bit longer or beyond the end of our project. The first one is CCAP for Sustainable Development Goals. So they give strong support to some cities and tools, and yeah, that's an opportunity for you. And also the MeetMed project, that's the second one, is developing city partnerships and building tools. So that could be also an opportunity for you to get in touch with them and to promote your tools. I think that's from my side. You're more than welcome to address questions or give some ideas.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation and overview of the efficient buildings community. So, Filomena, come. Oh, okay.
We are closing the meeting. If there are some questions also in the chat. No. So I would thank you, first of all, of the speakers that participated here and from remote for their valuable presentations. And moreover, I would like to thank you all the participants. And again, I would like to say many thanks to all the partnership of the project that have contributed to the successful of their activities. And in particular, I would thank you, my colleague from IMAA, for their efforts in organizing all the activities and carried out all the activities. And finally, I would I forgot to say thank you also to Regea, that is our external expert, the regional energy agency from north of Croatia, and in particular in the person of Marco Cavar, that supported us during all the project in the upgraded of the decision support tool, and the CRES that from Greece that supported us in the management of the website and all the social channels. And finally, a big thank you to our technical staff, Francesco Izzi and Lorenzo Amato, for their perfect organization of this meeting that was carried out without any technical problems. And that's all for my side. Thank you again. Bye.